Imagine you are standing on the floor of a high-speed automobile assembly line. All around you, robotic arms are dropping massive, pre-built engine blocks and transmissions directly into waiting car frames. Major car manufacturers don't mine their own iron ore, and they don't melt their own rubber to make tires. They source those parts from a network of trusted suppliers so they can assemble the final vehicle as quickly as possible. Software development works the exact same way. Instead of writing every single line of code from scratch, developers use a central supplier called NPM to source pre-made blocks of code. When you open a modern app on your phone, you are looking at an assembly. It is a collection of thousands of these external parts stitched together, rather than one giant file written by a single person. This blueprint shows how the structure keeps the finished app at the top completely separate from the generic parts at the bottom. It's like keeping the car's design plans separate from the physical bins of bolts and gears, so the two never get tangled up. But this extreme efficiency comes with a trade-off. It creates a massive, hidden reliance on the health and safety of that central code supplier. Think of the NPM registry as a gigantic global warehouse. It stores millions of these code blocks, ready to be shipped out at a moment's notice. These individual code blocks are called packages. A package can be something as simple as a generic login button, or as complex as a full payment processing system. Look at this cylinder labeled CDB. This is the master record that tracks every single piece of inventory in the warehouse. It's the ultimate source of truth that ensures every developer, everywhere in the world, receives the exact same part. When developers are building an app, they essentially go shopping in this warehouse. They search for specific package names that solve the exact problems their project needs. The registry handles the heavy lifting. It processes the request, locates the correct package on its digital shelves, and serves that code to the client's application. Because the registry manages the flow of almost all modern software components, it acts as the engine of the entire coding ecosystem. That centralization also makes it the single most critical point of failure in the supply chain. Of course, the warehouse doesn't stock itself. The packages are written and uploaded by digital craftsmen known as maintainers. To prove they are the authorized suppliers, these maintainers use secure digital tokens. Think of a token as a high-security ID badge that grants them permission to update their code on the warehouse shelves. Over on the consumer side, an app developer creates what is called a manifest. It is essentially a shopping list detailing every single package their application needs to function properly. This flowchart maps out exactly how an app links to those items. You can see how the app's service configuration on the left maps directly into the Yang service models on the right. These requested items are called dependencies because the app mechanically relies on those external code models to run. Once that connection is written into the code, the application will automatically reach out to the warehouse and download those exact dependencies every single time it boots up. It is a brilliantly automated process, but it means the application is permanently tied to whatever the maintainer decides to put inside that package. In September of 2025, an attack exposed the vulnerability of this design. A new threat known as the Shai-Hulud worm completely bypassed individual app security by attacking the warehouse itself. The worm didn't try to hack into millions of users' laptops. Instead, it stole the identity tokens from the maintainers, giving the attackers full control over the supplier accounts. With those ID badges in hand, the worm automatically republished poisoned versions of thousands of popular packages back into the global registry. This presentation slide explains the framework the attackers exploited. It states that this modeling language is used to model configuration and state data. Because apps automatically pull instructions from these models, the worm baked its poison directly into the software's DNA. The malware was also self-replicating. As soon as a developer accidentally downloaded a poisoned package, the worm stole that developer's tokens, took over their packages, and continued to spread. The attackers didn't need to break into every individual computer. By hijacking the automated pipes developers use to build software, the worm used the system's own efficiency to spread malware across the globe in seconds. As the poisoned packages sat unnoticed on the registry shelves, the infection rapidly cascaded across the global internet. Millions of finished apps automatically downloaded the corrupted code simply because their manifests told them to. These victims are known as downstream repositories. The real-world impact forced major institutions to scramble. By the spring of 2026, NHS England had to issue urgent cyber alerts, and tens of thousands of downstream repositories were exposed to the malware. This summary slide touches on the standards required to fix it. Notice the defined rules used to install, manipulate, and delete the configuration of network devices. In the wake of the attack, global security agencies like the NCSC instructed organizations to apply this same level of strict oversight to regularly audit their dependencies. Auditing simply means thoroughly checking every single ingredient listed in your app's digital pantry to ensure it hasn't been tampered with by a rogue supplier. The global supply chain is how almost all modern software is built today. Because these systems are now so deeply interconnected, we have to stay vigilant and know exactly what ingredients we are inviting into our own applications.